Hello, I'm Danny Hogger, and I'm recording my ethical presentation, first of two, for the Week 4 assignment for San Diego Christian College's Spring 2018 Ed 601 course. And I've chosen the theme of compassion because for me, it embodies everything I've wanted to be, not just as a teacher, but as an individual and a person, and something I strive towards, knowing that I'm not perfect and I'm not always achieving exactly what I'm hoping for. But as a teacher, I just don't think I could be the rigid, stringent, old school teacher who's at the front and everyone's in the palm of his hand at all moments, and it's standards and systems. And I was reaffirmed of that today when I was doing the reading in chapter 3 of the ethics book about how flexibility, or feeling the spirit of the moment and being able to collect and connect with students, is extremely important. So that's why I've chosen creating a real, meaningful, and genuine classroom as my selected topic. And as for the format, you're going to see on the top of each screen a research theory that I found from the San Diego Christian College Library. And then on the bottom, you'll see an example that I've designed that I think is either appropriate to use in the classroom or relevant, or something that I would like to pull from pop culture to show in my classroom. So on the first content slide here, I chose a quote from Myers and Berlowitz. It says, "Integrating compassion into classrooms can strengthen the emotional, intellectual, and social learning environment of a school." And I think that's so crucial. Whenever I had researched schools, my daughter's 2 years old, and I thought, well, what city do I want to be in, and what city do I want to teach in? And I did what a lot of teachers probably do, and I went on great schools, which is just one metric, right? But we take that number, that 1 to 10 value number of a school in California, and really place a high emphasis on what it might mean about the community, the emotional and social learning environment of a school, and what it might be like to step in there, knowing that it's not completely accurate and it's a faulty number or assumption. But what I do love is the schools that I've thrived in and enjoyed teaching in have been those that allow students to be themselves, to have emotions, to show their intellectual abilities, to cooperate in a social learning environment. And I think that integrating compassion is essential, and has been for me as a teacher through these years, to be able to develop those very important qualities. And so the image below, which if I was teaching in class, I would incorporate like a miniature biography or maybe an excerpt from the Fred Rogers film. And even though I teach at a public school now and taught at a Catholic school before, it's a great chance to show the values of someone who believes and has a relationship with God, and who believes compassion is a holy thing. So elevating it even higher than the research, right? Placing an even more important emphasis. And Fred Rogers would be a great case study for U.S. history or a religion class. Maybe even a government class, since I believe he testified a couple of times in front of Congress. So I would kind of incorporate that in my classroom as well, and I would like to do that. Moving on, this is from Hart and Hudson, 2004. "What students say they want most is for teachers and adults to listen to them, respect their ideas, and consider their needs." I knew from day one, if I was going to be respected as a teacher, I would need to respect my students and offer them that respect for the reciprocation of that feeling, so that I could be a teacher who is respected and who's cared for and whose ideas are valued. I wanted to go and hear what ideas my students have. What are they thinking? What do they believe? Who are they as people? And I do think that they want to be, just like a friend or a relationship of any kind, they want to be valued, to feel valued, to then contribute value to the classroom. And Hart and Hudson spend a lot of time talking about how important it is for adults to take the time to make sure students feel valued and spoken to and spoken with, and not just a piece of property like a desk or a textbook, but an actual human being inside. When I thought about that and reflected on that chapter of that book as I read through and scanned through that section, I thought of Sherry Lewis from Lamb Chops Playing Along. Again, I use two TV examples back to back here because I love to show multimedia in my classroom and show little excerpts for journal quotes or things like that. And she said, "Self-esteem comes from doing something and accomplishing something." And what Hart and Hodson are saying in the text also is, if you really want students to feel valued, they need to accomplish. And so when I was in my BITSA training, my advisor, Marie Zeisser in the East Bay of California, told me that you need to have this in mind, that if you want them to do something big, you've got to start by having them do something small, which means they've got to trust you first, build that momentum, and the more they do, that you gradually scale up the accomplishment, and that's how you get kids to achieving a lot. So there's a connection between text, media, and experience and mentor. For the next few, I started pausing my research, doing a little bit of reading, and then doing a couple of interviews, and then reflecting on some interviews that I've done to kind of connect the past, present, and future of my education and my curriculum. So here's a quote from Barbers and Bush in 2013, and they're talking about contemplative practices, and I pulled this quotation. Though quite varied, they have much in common. They all cultivate greater focus. Some lead to insight, wisdom, and compassion. I thought that was so true, and they continue to talk about how smart it is to take the time to pause curriculum and to speak and with our students and understand who they are, and then let them contribute their wisdom and their leadership into the classroom. For that quote, I was reminded of a conversation I had with a second grade teacher this month when I spoke to her on Skype, Michelle Ferre. She's a very successful YouTuber and creator. In fact, she has over 160,000 subscribers, someone who I aspire to be similar to, and is also a wonderful person, more than that. And she said, so many students are often told, you can't do this, you can't do that. And I'm the type of person that's going to prove to you that I can. And I think a lot more people need that message to inspire them. And adults who carry that perspective, we're missing it as students, and we're missing it as children. So I think we can do a lot to foster that as teachers and as educators. Next, I looked at another book, and I read a chapter about compassion, and I really liked this quote from Bain in 2013. Compassion includes a motivation to act in a way that sympathy does not. It talked a lot extensively about sympathy is fine, but it doesn't make you a good person. It doesn't even make you a good communicator, because it just says that you're going through something, but it doesn't even mean that you want to help. And I thought that was really interesting, because we talk about that a lot in society, don't we? That we care about something, but then we take no action on so many things that are discussed as and slated to be important. Now on this, I had just spoken with a 5th grade teacher in Richmond, California, Kenneth Farr, who's won several awards for his compassion in his classroom, including being selected for like the Bay Area News as Teacher of the Month. And he's a really inspirational person. What he said was, as much as we want to, we can't control what happens at home. It's going to happen. Despite that, you can control what's going on at school, and that can give kids what they need. And I thought that was so profound, because sometimes I hear at staff meetings the teachers feel like they've given up, or they can't do anything, or you're not going to be able to affect a kid outside the classroom, so don't try. And I felt very touched by what Kenneth said, because that is what it means to be inspiring. That it's more than sympathy and saying, oh, he's going through something, or she's going through tough times at home. But it's, how can I make the classroom experience at least one safe place where students can thrive and be successful? And that was another phenomenal connection between research and practice. And I thought they connected very well together. Next, here's a Barbers and Bush quote again. I read 2 or 3 chapters from that book in preparing for this week 4 assignment. Plan the structure of the exercise, but hold it lightly, more like a structured improvisation, so that you can be present in the moment with student responses. So after I read that book, I rewatched an episode I did this month, a conversation with Chris Fallows from my weekly show, Inspiring Teachers. And Chris says, my job, I think, is to put them, the students, in a spot where they can accomplish everything. And if they can do that, they get to feel awesome. And I don't have to tell them. And sometimes we confuse compassion with a simple gesture or a throwaway phrase that we say all the time. Hey, good job. Nice work. Well done. Great. But if we tell everyone great, then that devalues great, doesn't it? It devalues the compliment. And what Chris talked about, and of all the people I've only spoken to 3 times, Chris Fallows is one of my favorite in the world, because he said, I don't need to praise kids. He teaches theater, and the improvisation quote connected these two very well for me. I don't need to praise them, because they know once they've hit puberty, when they've done a good job or not. They know when they've been successful, and they also know when a teacher is fluffing them with a compliment that doesn't really carry any weight, or that's lying to them. You know, they know more than anyone else when they have accomplished something. And I thought the compassion, I think, also goes along with honesty in this situation. So hold your exercises and your lesson plans, but do them in a flexible way so that if a moment comes where a student responds with a great moment, that you can value them, value that discussion, and continue to carry it on. That's huge to me as a teacher. I love the flow of the moment. And when a comment from a student takes me completely off course for 5 or 10 minutes, because it builds a more realistic, valued, connected classroom experience. So all of these conclusions for me met research with experience and my modern classroom. And I think that's what I'm trying to get from this program. And it's also what I'm trying to get from this documentary process where I'm documenting the vlogging of my master's in arts and education from San Diego Christian College. Because look at these sources. I was able to connect 4 of them that I'd done personally and 6 that I read from finding books and looking through the San Diego Christian College library and reading articles and 1 or 2 blogs with the quotes that I found. And this is what I love about teaching, right? Is if we're always open to these possibilities that even an assignment might connect things that I've done to people that I've talked to research that I've made. And that to me is education. That I think has true value. And that's something that I would love to bring to people in my show and my podcast, in inspiring teachers, and in my work here in this master's program. Is if we all lived our life like that, connected the things we learned to the people we know, and treated people better as a result, that's the teacher I want to be. That's the student I want to be. And I thank you for viewing my Week 4 project. It's been an absolute pleasure to do it. And I love the fact that I'm enjoying it so far. So I hope that you'll find that I really put my heart into this, and when I post this as well for people, this is the kind of program you get from San Diego Christian College that really gets you to dive deeper into who you are as an educator. Thank you very much.